Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Asia. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 28th of April. Indian Prime Minister Modi launches development projects including 7 cancer hospitals in northeast Assam. Locals in Pakistan-administered Kashmir upset over adulterated milk supply demand food testing lab. And Sri Lanka's opposition leader Premadasa says his party is ready to recover country from crisis if given power. And now for all the details. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday laid the foundation stone of various developmental projects relating to healthcare and education sector and inaugurated 7 cancer hospitals in northeastern Assam state. He hailed the Bodo Accord that has ushered in peace in tribal areas and said efforts are underway to completely remove the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from India's northeast region.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday inaugurated a slew of educational, healthcare and developmental projects worth $215 million in northeastern Assam state. Addressing the Peace, Unity and Development Rally in Assam's Karbi Anglong, the Prime Minister hailed the 2020 Bodo Accord reached between Bodo tribal representatives and the government, saying it has brought long-lasting peace to Assam. Modi said the government is also trying to dilute the AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in the northeast region. He also hailed the double-engine BJP government in Assam.
आज जो शिलान्यास के कार्यक्रम हुए हैं वो सिर्फ किसी इमारत का शिलान्यास नहीं है, ये सिर्फ किसी कॉलेज का, किसी महाविद्यालय का, किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन का शिलान्यास नहीं है, ये मेरे यहाँ के नौजवानों के उज्जवल भविष्य का शिलान्यास है.
The Prime Minister later in the day virtually inaugurated 7 cancer hospitals in parts of Assam state, along with Indian industrialist Ratan Tata, and laid foundation stones of 7 more such facilities. 84-year-old Ratan Tata, a renowned philanthropist, said he wishes to dedicate his last years to health. He said the centers will make treatment accessible to all. The network of 17 healthcare centers being built under cancer control model of Tata Trusts is expected to serve 50,000 people annually from Assam and its neighbouring states.
Efforts to douse the fire at the hill-sized waste dump in India's capital New Delhi continued for the 3rd day on Thursday. Flames blazed at Bhalswa landfill site as firefighters battled the fires that broke out on Tuesday evening amid extreme heat and low visibility. The Delhi government imposed a fine of Rs 50 lakhs on the civic body North MCD in connection with the fire.
Flames blazed at a hill-sized waste dump in India's capital New Delhi for a 3rd day on Thursday as firefighters battled the fires amid extreme heat and low visibility. The cause of the fire at the Bhalswa landfill site was under investigation, though such incidents are commonplace during India's scorching summers when temperatures regularly surpass 40 degrees Celsius, that is 104 degrees Fahrenheit, before the monsoon rains bring relief. Locals who live near the Bhalswa dump yard in Delhi have been reporting breathing problems since the massive fire broke on Tuesday.
इसमें इतना धुआं था कि यहाँ दिखाई नहीं दे रहा था, कुछ भी रुका ही नहीं जा रहा था. कम से कम 200 मीटर तक इसकी लपटें थी जो तपन थी, तो इसलिए रुका ही नहीं जा पा रहा था. जब फायर वालों की 12-13 गाड़ी इकट्ठी आई हैं, उन्होंने नीचे से कंट्रोल हुआ, उनसे ऊपर से आज तक नहीं हुआ.
10-15 मिनट लग ही जाता है आग अपने आप. ऐसा लगता है देखो बगल में जुग्गी थे, 20 जुग्गी थे, 20 जुग्गी जल गए. मान लो इतना गंदगी है इसके ऊपर कि आदमी के पानी तो छोड़ दो, पानी तो इतना कचरा आता है मत पूछो. ऊपर से आदमी को बाल उल भी सब उड़ते हैं, इतना कचरा पानी पीने लायक नहीं है पानी.
Fires in Delhi's dump yards also contribute to the toxic air that people living in the world's most polluted capital have to breathe. Meanwhile, the Delhi government on Thursday imposed a fine of Rs 50 lakhs, that is around $65,262 on civic body North Municipal Corporation of Delhi in connection with the fire at the landfill site. Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai imposed the fine on the basis of the investigation report by Delhi Pollution Control Committee.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken testified before the Congressional hearing by the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on State Foreign Operations on Wednesday. During the hearing, he said India and Russia became partners of choice out of necessity when the United States was not in a position to be New Delhi's partner. He, however, asserted that now there is a growing strategic convergence between Washington and New Delhi. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that India had partnered with Russia at a time when Washington was not in a position to take up that role. He made the statement while testifying before the U.S. Senate Committee on Appropriations and the Subcommittee on State and Foreign Operations. Republican Senator William Hagerty during the hearing asked Blinken about his views on the India-United States relationship. Blinken added that the relationship between Delhi and Moscow went back decades. He, however, said that many countries were now having a relook at some of their partners and interests, particularly when it comes to their relationship with Russia.
And of course, in the case of India, there's a relationship that goes back decades. And Russia for India was, out of necessity, a partner of choice when we were not in a position to be a partner. Now we are, and we are investing in that effort.
Blinken said the United States government was now investing in efforts to partner with India and added that now there was a growing strategic convergence between US, India, and of course, China is a big part of that. Blinken said US President Joe Biden has spent a lot of time directly engaging with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and India's leadership. The United States last month offered India more defense and energy sales after President Joe Biden called India somewhat shaky in acting against Russia. India has refrained from explicitly condemning Russia's invasion while calling for an immediate end to violence. Several other countries, including the US, UK, European Union and Canada, have announced sanctions against Russian government officials, banks and oligarchs after the country attacked Ukraine. In news from Pakistan, technical talks between Pakistan and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for the enhancement and revival of the stalled loan program have commenced. Junior Finance Minister Aisha Ghosh Pasha confirmed on Wednesday. Pasha said their talks with IMF officials focused on the subsidies given by the former government led by ousted Premier Imran Khan, as the fund felt those were not sustainable. But they also showed concern about Pakistan's increasing current account deficit. Jihad Azur, director of IMF's Middle East and Central Asia Department, told Reuters in Dubai that they also discussed the country's huge current account deficit with Pakistani officials in Washington. The officials said that IMF team will assess the policy priorities of the new government and the economic impact in the context of the war in Ukraine. A new Pakistani government led by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif that took over this month said it was facing enormous economic challenges with the risk of GDP growth falling and double-digit inflation it blames on the mismanagement of the previous administration. Moving on. Locals in Pakistan-administered Kashmir have expressed anger over instances of supply of adulterated milk in the illegally occupied region from parts of Pakistan. They have lamented the government has failed to improve the dairy sector and maintain proper food safety standards.
Locals in Pakistan-administered Kashmir have demanded the government to take immediate measures to improve the dairy sector, expressing worries over supply of adulterated milk with chemicals in several areas. Residents have lamented it has been over 70 years, but the Pakistani establishment has failed to even open a food testing laboratory in the illegally occupied region, and they have to get the food samples tested elsewhere. In the absence of any support to local dairy farmers, a large portion of milk supply comes from outside only, with no proper safety standards.
पार्टी नहीं बनती तो मैं ये कहूँगा आज 73 से 75 साल हो चुके हैं आज़ाद कश्मीर के अंदर, अभी तक मैं नहीं कहूँगा कि हमारे हुक्मरानों ने अपने हलफ की पासदारी करते हुए आवाम की बेहतरी के लिए कोई काम किया हो, क्योंकि ये बेसिक काम था, आवाम की सेहत बेसिक काम था। लेकिन आज तक अगर फूड टेस्टिंग लेबॉर्ट्री ये नहीं बना सके स्टेट के अंदर, तो मुझे बताएं ये और क्या काम करें।
Locals say they have now become increasingly intolerant of the Pakistani occupation as Pakistan government consistently maintains a negligent attitude and ignores even their basic demands. They believe Islamabad's agenda is to keep the region underdeveloped.
In news from Sri Lanka, with the demonstrations roiling Sri Lanka for weeks over the ongoing economic crisis, Sri Lanka's opposition leader Sajid Premadasa has said that his party is ready to recover the country if given power. Premadasa has been leading a massive protest march rally to capital Colombo to demand the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his cabinet.
Sri Lanka's opposition leader Sajid Premadasa has said that his party, Samagi Jana Bala Vegaya, is ready to recover the country from the ongoing economic crisis if the majority power of the people is given to their party. Premadasa blamed that the present government, led by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has plunged the island nation into an abyss and he can help the country in recovering from its worst economic crisis in decades. The main opposition party is leading a 6-day protest march, Samagi Balape Gamana, demanding the resignation of Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his cabinet. The protest march entered the third day on Thursday. Sri Lanka is facing one of its worst economic crises, resulting in widespread protests against the Rajapaksa family leaders, including President Gotabaya and his elder brother PM Mahinda Rajapaksa. Despite calls to step down, PM Mahinda has refused to do so. On Wednesday, he said that President Gotabaya had not asked him to resign. We cannot turn our back on the constitution and leave by simply allowing the country to go into a state of anarchy, PM Mahinda Rajapaksa added. Demonstrations have roiled the South Asian island nation of 22 million people for weeks, with people protesting at shortages of fuel and other items and prolonged power cuts.
Nepal's capital Kathmandu has been painted purple as the jacaranda trees are blooming with flowers, creating a spectacular view around the city. The streets and corners of Nepal's capital Kathmandu have been painted purple as the jacaranda trees are blooming with flowers, an annual phenomenon that creates a spectacular view around the city. Called jacaranda mimosifolia, the purple flowers are in full bloom in the months of March and April. They have always been used for decoration by locals, a tradition that has been kept for at least a century and a half. Every year, Kathmandu's main ring road and Kingsway get covered with the purple flowers, which cannot resist breeze and light showers.
जाकरन्डाहरु फुलेको छ सडकको वरिपरि आसपासमा धेरै ठाउँ-ठाउँहरुमा जाकरन्डाहरु फुलेको छ अनि एकदम पुरै पर्पल कलर देखिन्छ रोडको छेउछाउहरुमा हिँड्दाखेरि त्यो दृश्यहरु एकदम लाभदायक देखिन्छ एकदम सुन्दर देखिन्छ त्यो दृश्यहरु अनि पुरै पर्पल कलरले ढकमक्क भएर चाहिँ रोडहरु पनि अलिकति झिलिमिली देखिरहेको छ.
It is believed that the Rana rulers who ruled the Kingdom of Nepal from 1846 AD until 1951 AD brought in the jacaranda trees, which grow from cutting or grafting by seedling rootstock. It normally takes 2 to 3 years to bloom. This genus thrives in full sun and sandy soils, which explains their abundance in warmer climates. As Eid al-Fitr, a festivity that marks the end of Islamic holy month of Ramadan, draws near, ticket counters at Bangladesh's railway stations have witnessed a growing number of travellers. Thousands of people have lined up at the Kamalapur railway station in capital Dhaka every day since last weekend, waiting to buy tickets for Eid trips. Bangladesh Railway on April 23 began to sell train tickets in advance for Eid travellers who will flock home to join the festival with their families. Muslim majority Bangladesh will celebrate the Eid al-Fitr festival on or around May 3, depending upon moon sightings. According to Bangladeshi Railways Minister Nurul Islam Sujan, this year, advance tickets for Eid would be available in train stations and on the app. Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on southasianewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/Asia Newsline and follow us on Twitter @Asia Newsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.